Welcome back, everybody, to 360 Sports Network at 360sportsnetwork.com. I am The Lost Cause, coming to you again with the Daily Pigskin Blink, a daily look at fantasy football in the NFL and everything in between to help make your fantasy football team hum. Well, there was a lot of good action yesterday. If you owned a few players that were productive throughout the season, this was definitely your week to catch your wins in your fantasy football league. Let's look at it position by position, starting with tight ends. And the big play this week, of course, the big play every week, besides Jimmy Graham, who didn't do too much this past Sunday, but Ron Gronkowski, about 28 points. He went 6 for 160 and 2 touchdowns for New England. He and Tom Brady definitely know how to put on a show, and if you have him, you're definitely riding him through the playoffs as you get your win in this opening week. Tony Romo in last night's action, 21 for 31, 321 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Matt Ryan also yesterday grabbing 4 touchdowns, 320 yards on a 22 completions out of 38 attempt performance, about 36 points for each one of those quarterbacks. Tom Brady, 22 for 37, 357, 3 touchdowns, 1 INT. Mark Sanchez also having a big day. If he wasn't getting it done in the air, 13 of 21, 181, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. He was getting it done on the ground, going 2 for 4 yards and 2 touchdowns. Phillip Rivers putting together a lot of consistent weeks, nice big scoring weeks, 27 points this week in standard scoring, 24 out of 33 for 240 yards and 3 touchdowns. Drew Brees having a nice day, 36 of 47, 337, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and Jake Locker coming in place into the game in place of Hasselbeck, 13 of 29, 282, 1 touchdown, and also 6 carries and 1 touchdown. For running backs, MJD stole the show, 27 carries for 85 yards, 2 touchdowns, 6 receptions for 51 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Sean Green also having a nice day for the Jets to go along with Sanchez's 24 rushes for 129 yards, 1 touchdown, and also 3 receptions for 58 yards. Brandon Jacobs last night, 19 rushes, 101 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Ryan Grant, big bounce back game here. 10 rushes for 85 yards and 2 touchdowns, 8.5 yards a rush. That's crazy. Ray Rice gets 20 points on the week, 26 rushes for 103 yards, a touchdown, and also receiving 6 receptions for 46 yards. LaShawn McCoy had a toned down game, but toned down for him is 18 points as he rushes 28 times for 38 yards, 2 touchdowns, also grabbing 3 catches for 33 yards. Marion Barber for Chicago, 27 rushes, 108 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 receptions for 32 yards. Joe Webb from Minnesota comes out of nowhere, 7 rushes, 109 yards, and 1 touchdown. Ryan Matthews keeps being steady, 20 rushes, 114 yards, also his receiving totals, 6 receptions, 34 yards, gets 14 points in standardized scoring, but in point per reception leagues, he got about 20. That's not bad. Michael Bush for Oakland snaps back after last week's performance, 23 rushes for 78 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 receptions for 19, and D'Angelo Williams keeps it going, 7 rushes for 87 yards and 1 touchdown. Our wide receivers, Marquise Colston for New Orleans, 7 receptions for 105 yards and 2 touchdowns. Julio Jones, again for Atlanta, one of Matt Ryan's favorite targets, 3 receptions for 104 yards and 2 touchdowns. Larry Fitzgerald getting the job done, 7 receptions, 149 yards, 1 touchdown. Laurent Robinson last night, 4 receptions for 137 yards and 1 touchdown, as well as buddies Miles Austin, 4 for 63, 1 touchdown. Des Bryant, 1 reception for 50 yards and a touchdown. Elsewhere, Nate Washington has a real nice game, 6 receptions, 130 yards, 1 touchdown. Jabbar Gaffney for Washington, 6 receptions, 92 yards, and a touchdown, as well as teammate Santana Moss, 3 receptions, 81 yards, and a touchdown. Hakeem Nicks last night, no touchdowns, but 154 yards off of 7 receptions. That's a nice game. Jordy Nelson, 3 receptions, 81 yards, and a touchdown. Titus Young, as I mentioned a couple weeks ago, you'd probably see his name a little bit more, 4 receptions, 87 yards, 1 touchdown. Denver's Demaryius Thomas, 7 receptions, 78 yards, and a touchdown. Percy Harvin, 10 receptions, 69 yards, and 1 touchdown. And that's it for our fantasy football recap of last night's game. You can check out this broadcast as well as every other broadcast at 360sportsnetwork.com as well as fantasyfootballtoolkit.com. Any questions, any comments, any suggestions, anything under the sun that you want to mention, that you want to ask, send them over to lostcause at fantasyfootballtoolkit.com. And any questions for 360 Sports Network. Doesn't matter what the sport is, any sport at all. We got the Olympics coming up, NBA season's ready to start, and we're right in the midst of playoff football for fantasy football. You can email those questions, comments, suggestions over to 360 Sports Network at gmail.com, as well as follow 360 Sports Network at Twitter at 3S Network. That's it for me, everybody. Have a great and happy Monday.